Some thoughts on nothing, nothing at all, and how we came from it. I will also cover why I believe the present is the beginning of the universe, always the beginning. This is not going to be well written. I am talking some stuff that is hard for my puny brain to wrap its head containing an even puny brain around, but I believe the answers are right there. I am known to go over these arguments many times to try and find the right way to work things out, and I'm still not there yet. The first step is understanding that our origins are a double negative. Nothing can't exist because nothingness requires something to exist. For example, emptiness requires space. Without space, there is no such thing as emptiness. The concept can't exist. It is widely believed that space and time are a fabric that distorts under movement and mass. This is what relativity is. If you believe in relativity, you believe that time and space are a thing. It is also widely believed that this thing, this ether, is expanding with the universe. That is, before there was the universe with all the mass in it, there was no time and space. Such concepts did not exist. Take it a step further. Let's go with a likely nonsense perspective that we are the center of the universe. Not you and I individually, but you and I collectively. And the universe expands like a sphere for us. So we have this impression that we're in the center of this ball universe, and on the outside of the sphere is space and time moving into the nothingness, somehow transforming this nothingness into somethingness. And let's assume you can pause the universe around you and outrace this expansion into nothingness. What do you find? You can't move into this nothingness, because it is devoid of space. There is no emptiness for you to occupy. But in conceptualizing this whole scenario, you're envisaging an exterior of this ball that is spatial. It has 3 dimensions of spatial expanse. So it feels like you should be able to enter into the nothingness outside the universe. But you can't. Why is this conceptualization wrong? Because there is no uniformal center. Individually, whether it is you or I, or an alien on some planet a billion light years away, the universe is expanding away from us all equally. This is a hard to understand 4 dimensions of space kind of thing that is occurring. The best way we can visualize it is by visualizing an expanding balloon in 3 dimensions of space. On the outside layer of this expanding balloon is us. Indeed, every point in the universe is on the exterior, the skin, of this balloon. This means that as the balloon is blown up, every point recedes away from one another equally. This is what is occurring in our universe. We're all on the outer edge of the expanding balloon. We're all on the edge of expansion. Indeed, space is creating new space right where you are now. It is pulling it from beyond the 0 coordinate. This is where this spaceless nothingness exists, beyond 0. You don't need to outrace the universe to get there, you just need to travel inside of 0 to get there. You need to detach from space. This is the true meaning of 0 as we comprehend it. It is not the center of the expanding balloon. It is right where you are, and it is everywhere in space. So why do we have different notions of time? We view time as something that extends back in time. We perceive of it as having a beginning that stretches way back to a definite point, a 0 in the distant past. Might 0 in time exist right now? Might the point of creation not exist in the past at all, but at every single elapsing moment that occurs in this kaleidoscopic expansion of space? If right now is the moment of creation, what then is the past? Why did I have the sensation of something have come before? Indeed, it is the essence of all physical laws, a series of past states as it relates to the present state. I am going to speculate that time is a construct of observation. It is as real as observation is real, but once observation stops it ceases to be real. All past states are memory states. There is no going through the past and interacting with it like we could in space. It's not really a real kind of state. It's a conceptual state. It is always a deduction of the present. In order to inform this deduction, we need to create part of a past state and have it carry over into the present. An example is writing a note saying someone did something. You can tell in the future that someone did something by what is written on the note. This is less abstract than human memory, but nevertheless the same. A lot of memory equates to this. We view the page on the notepad as carryover, the same paper containing the same particles and the same ink. But what if the pages actually had no relation to one another? What if the past notepad was actually comprised of different matter than the present notepad? How would this be possible? Infinity. Infinity makes it possible, or some abstract state that I will call infinity because I don't know any better yet. It makes this possible because an infinite number of configurations will have the notepad saying an infinite number of things, and there would be an infinite number of tiny variations so microscopic you can't see the differences. The notepads say the exact same thing, but the particle arrangements are different. And somehow we link these states. But infinity is a conceptual state. People may argue it can't possibly exist because we can't count that high. So how can the infinite exist? As we understand the infinite, it is an impossible to count to number using numbers arranged in sequences, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. We can apply math to shorten this count. We can apply multiplications or exponents and it is still infinitely unattainable. This is what the mathematical framework. What is this mathematical framework? Once again, the dimensions. And without the dimensions, without space and time, there is no mathematical framework at all. The absence of this space-time mathematical framework makes the infinite possible. Not an infinite as we conceptualize it. We conceptualize the infinite as a number sequence. This idea of any sequence is purged. What we have left are things that do not exist relative to one another in any sense whatsoever, and that's what makes the infinite possible. It does not abide by mathematical limitations, because there are no mathematical rules. So what I visualize is an infinite number of presents, all distinct, which somehow become bonded by the purely chance appearance of random configurations of carryover information. Which brings up another important thing, distinction. How does distinction exist when there is no space nor time? Surely such a state, if it existed, with its infinite number are all identical in their lack of distinction, thus rendering the concept of an infinite number of them outside any relative framework null. The way I think of this is that this infinite state is not nothing, distinctionless, but something that we can't comprehend when we strip away both space and time together. As soon as we do that, we lose our ability to understand what it is. Rather, we need at least one, space or time, in order to break down what it really is. For instance, let's assume space is not abstract, such as needing time to traverse space and establish connection with other things including simultaneity, that there is such a thing as everything right now, snapshot at this moment, existing simultaneously in a collective present across space. You and I have this notion of existing at the same present. And like a film, we just pause time, we remove the time dimension. Then everything in this present still exists in a distinct configuration. We can't remove both dimensions of space and time, we lose our ability to comprehend it. We have to compromise, remove one concept, space or time, not both. It is easy to say if you removed both, the universe would lose its distinction completely. But when you remove just the time dimension, the universe still possesses a distinction. It's the same process of inquiry, it is just removing one element. This points to the universe possessing distinction when the dimensions are removed. Rather than becoming distinctionless, it has this snapshot. And this snapshot is not particularly special, which points to every other possible snapshot existing. The truth is definitely going to be far more abstract than that. Relativity of simultaneity shows no two perspectives share simultaneity unless they meet up in space. They all disagree on the order of events, too. This does not necessarily rule out a collective present, though. Different concepts of simultaneity might just be a kaleidoscopic kind of present. It is possible rather than imagining snapshot universes, it is a morphic universe, one that changes based on the observer. Rather than an infinite number of things, one singular morphic thing that has an infinite number of configurations seen from an infinite number of finite perspectives. The observer paradox: you can only see what you see. But it is what it is, a snapshot to us. I don't know how to understand all this abstractness, there may not even be words to conceptualize it all. But you're not going to be able to leap out into the deep end and have answers. You need to progressively break things down until you understand them in a nuanced way. I am conceptualizing time as something that happens by coincidence of an infinite number of present configurations that just happen to create notepads, memories, that exist presently that allow us to speak with a time dimension but not in a really real kind of way. The passage of time would be an illusion of the observer. This does not mean time does not exist, it is an observer paradox. It is real to us but not really real to the universe as a whole. Time dilation still occurs, relativity remains intact, but it is a process of the present analyzing the present which apparently paradoxically can't happen without time. This may seem full of paradoxes, but I don't believe it is. I believe it is just something abstract and nuanced waiting to be understood. Maybe science explains away a lot of what I have just said, but it is a way I self-educate, since I don't like following. I have conviction in the idea that the present is always the beginning, and I will probe this line of inquiry until I have things ironed out. It is also possible in some way it may explain the double-slit experiment, including the fact that observer directs where the particle goes. This is because you are jotting down in some form of notepad the last location of that particle at every stage you observe it. If you do not have that info, the particle may travel wherever it is otherwise destined based on probability because the past is either not recorded or recorded differently. The notepad, the record, creates the past, and analyzing this creates the perception of time. And it potentially also explains what happens when we die. Since there is no more observation as it pertains to us, it may be that time, even if it stretches into infinity, becomes nullified because time isn't really real. This means we'll live out our lives forever, repeating our same mistakes forever but not in continuity with time.